Also weighing in on the serious situation is WikiLeaks, with Julian Assange promising to publish millions of emails to cast new light on the crisis. They're supposed to show just how comfortable the West used to be with President Assad and how the media is currently being manipulated to vilify him. The whistleblower made his comments during a rare interview with a South American TV network while holed up at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Assange criticized Washington's harassment of WikiLeaks, saying speaking the truth should never be considered a crime. He also mentioned how the West is turning into a surveillance megastate, which he believes makes a mockery of human rights. Assange predicted he would stay up to a year at the embassy, surrounded by British police, until either a diplomatic solution is found or the case against him is dropped. More on the interview with Paul Whiffen from the United Kingdom Independence Party. Paul, thank you for joining us today. Now, Julian Assange was very scathing of what he called a transnational surveillance network headed by the United States. He says WikiLeaks wants to stop it, but do you think it can?
Well, I don't know whether it can, but he's certainly right. I would only challenge one thing, which I would say that we here in Britain suffer even more from this surveillance society in the United States. London is the world capital of surveillance. Everywhere you look, there's a CCTV camera. We are constantly monitored 24 hours a day. Now, we in the UK Independence Party try and fight this in the same way that WikiLeaks has been trying to do, but it's very difficult because every time you protest about it, they say, oh, it helps with catching criminals and you're made out to be against the rule of law if you don't want to be surveyed, you know, every moment of your waking life.
Now, with regards to the sexual allegations against him, Assange says he just can't deny them because it would be like wrestling with a pig. You'll get muddy either way. Do you think that's a valid argument?
I do. I'm always very worried when I hear that people who are involved in politics, who are campaigning for some cause or other, get tarred with the sexual allegations brush. It's the easiest thing to allege, it's the most difficult thing to prove or disprove, and it seems to be a very useful tool for those who are attempting to put us in a tighter and tighter straitjacket. So many of the people who have been instrumental in fighting for our freedom end up being tarred with this particular brush. And whilst I don't know anything about the particular allegations against Julian, it seems to me that it's the handiest implement to use if you ever want to discredit anybody.
Now, without a doubt, and I think you will agree with me, Paul, WikiLeaks has certainly been weakened to a certain extent by both financial blockades and some media ridicule. Could the group yet to be brought down, do you think?
Well, I don't know whether they can be brought down. I think it's all a question of how much or how little influence people have. And I can see that this has certainly weakened some of the case for the documents that they are revealing. But the fact of the matter is that there's been no attempt to say that any of the stuff that they reveal is fraudulent or it's misleading. The whole strike seems to be to take them out because the actual documents speak for themselves and are clearly, for the most part, extremely damning and very relevant, You know,
Assange suggested that his plight might either be resolved by the UK and Ecuador reaching a diplomatic agreement or by Sweden simply dropping the case. Which scenario do you think is most likely, if any?
Well, I wish they'd hurry up and come to some resolution on this because it's costing us a fortune in policing. But I think the most likely thing is that this, I guess we could call it an Ecuadorian standoff rather than a Mexican standoff, will end up being resolved by Sweden dropping the case, because I don't see how they can proceed from here. Although it's very uncomfortable for him where he is, there's no reason why he needs to leave the embassy. He doesn't have any medical condition that I'm aware of that might force him to seek medical treatment, for example. So I don't see a very quick resolution to this, unfortunately, for our coffers here. It's as if our police weren't under enough pressure with all the other policing they're having to do with the Olympics and everything else at the moment. But I don't see a resolution. William Hague has stopped threatening to storm the Ecuadorian embassy, which I think he was very foolish to even hint at originally. But we might come to some arrangement with the Ecuadorians. I don't know. But I think the most likely thing is that Sweden will realise that they've created, by not sending a prosecutor to talk to him in England, as he offered to do, to speak to them, to answer their questions, by going this heavy-handed route, I think they've made a rod for their own back, and they're going to end up having to drop it. But I don't think they'll do it anytime soon.
Thank you for that. I'm afraid that's all the time we have.
Quite all right.
Live from London, your insight and analysis. Paul Whiffen, thank you, from the United Kingdom Independence Party.